Good morning. Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. A judge throws out several charges in former President Trump's Georgia election case, and he's set to rule on a motion to disqualify Fulton County DA Fani Willis by the end of the week.
The House passes a bipartisan bill targeting TikTok. The fate of the bill now in the hands of the Senate. Hear lawmakers' thoughts on the social media app.
President Biden and former President Trump clinched their respective nominations for a 2024 rematch. We take a look at some of the issues they're facing in the general election ahead.
Russian President Vladimir Putin talking nuclear war and how Russia is prepared for it. What the U.S. and one of Russia's neighbors have to say about it.
A U.S. Customs officer in Chicago targeting American artists with propaganda from the Chinese Communist Party. A lawmaker now calling for an investigation into possible CCP infiltration of the U.S. government.
The rising costs of car insurance, along with high inflation, are still issues for many Americans. We take a look at the numbers with the host of NTD Business.
Are New York City pizza joints about to get sliced? A fresh baked oven emissions law could be putting some of them out of business.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Today's Thursday, March 14th, and yesterday we saw a small win for Trump in Georgia.
Yeah, that's right, but he still faces the RICO charge.
That's right. So let's talk about it today. Topping the news, the judge in the Georgia election case against former President Trump and his co-defendants threw out some of the charges yesterday, but he left most of the sprawling indictment intact.
The judge quashed 3 charges that apply to Trump. The charges related to a phone call over the 2020 election results made to the Georgia Secretary of State. This comes ahead of a highly anticipated decision on a possible disqualification of the district attorney prosecuting the case. NTD's Jeremy Sandberg has the update.
All right.
Fulton County Judge Scott McAfee threw out 6 of 41 criminal counts against former President Trump and 5 of his co-defendants on Wednesday. Prosecutors allege Trump and other defendants tried to have Georgia officials violate the Constitution by pressuring them to unlawfully appoint presidential electors. The judge in Wednesday's filing said prosecutors' allegations on the dismissed charges were not detailed enough and failed to specify what underlying felony defendants were allegedly soliciting. The dropped charges referenced the U.S. and Georgia constitutions, which the judge found too vague due to each having hundreds of clauses, subject to different interpretations. The judge says failure to provide detail limits the defendant's ability to prepare their defenses intelligently, and that prosecutors can seek a new, more detailed indictment on those counts. He gave a 6-month deadline to resubmit the case to a grand jury. Trump and 14 remaining co-defendants have pleaded not guilty to charges of criminal conspiracy in Georgia's 2020 presidential election. Trump's attorney Steve Sadow praised the ruling as the correct application of law. The judge's ruling comes ahead of his expected decision on whether Fulton County DA Fani Willis should be disqualified. That's over allegedly benefiting from an improper relationship with a prosecutor she hired, Nathan Wade. McAfee has pledged to rule by the end of the week. He previously stated the DA could be disqualified if evidence shows an actual conflict of interest or the appearance of one. The Georgia Prosecuting Attorney's Council would appoint another DA to the case if Willis is disqualified. New prosecutors could modify the indictment or choose to drop the case altogether. Jeremy Sandberg, NTD News.
To get some legal analysis on this development in Georgia, we hear from John Malcolm, Vice President of the Heritage Foundation's Institute for Constitutional Government and the Director for the Meese Center for Legal and Judicial Studies. John, thanks for helping us understand this. Does the fact that some charges were dropped change anything, and given that the RICO charge against Trump and his co-defendants is still there?
Well, look, anytime you can get charges dropped, it's a good day for the defense team. The sort of picking apart the indictment, which can die a death by 1,000 cuts. The lead-in was terrific for this interview, but it did say that the rest of the charges have somehow implied that those charges have been upheld. There are motions to dismiss those charges too. The judge has not ruled on them. There are different legal bases to try to get those charges dismissed. And of course, Judge McAfee has said that by the end of this week, so not much time left in this week, he's going to issue a ruling on the motion to disqualify Fani Willis and the Fulton County District Attorney's Office from continuing to prosecute the case. And if he does that, and he might, then the entire case is going to be reviewed by a brand new prosecutor.
Right, and John, just to clarify that decision of whether or not to disqualify Fani Willis is separate from this ruling here, dropping these charges. Trump attorney Alina Habba says the charges being dropped reflects sloppiness of Georgia prosecutors. Do you agree with that assessment?
Yeah, I think that's right. So essentially what the indictment says in these 6 charges is Donald Trump and these other co-defendants solicited these public officials to violate their oath by engaging in a felonious conduct. Well, yeah, what part of their oaths were they asked to violate? What felonies did he want these people to commit? It's very, very vague language that could cover seemingly anything. Their oath to defend both the federal and state constitutions, as the judge points out, involves 1,000 different duties that these people have to undertake. So what exactly was Trump and the defendants telling these people to do that was involved a felony? You have to be able to, if you're a criminal defendant, know what it is you've been charged with if you're going to be able to adequately prepare a defense. And the judge said that the state did a deficient job in terms of providing that information.
Yes, and on this show, analysts have asked, what is the actual crime here? How will the defense pivot following these charges being dropped?
Well, I'm not sure the defense needs to pivot. They are at the moment on offense. They've moved to disqualify Fani Willis. They've told the judge, look, if you reopen this hearing, we have more evidence that we could present here. And we have motions to dismiss all of these other charges, not the least of which is that President Trump has claimed that he's immune from prosecution. And the Supreme Court has agreed to take up the matter as to whether he enjoys presidential immunity or not.
Yes, and that's all over his election case there at the federal level. Do you expect that prosecutors will give more detail to these charges and resubmit them?
I'm not sure. By the way, you said that the case before the Supreme Court does involve the federal case, but the issue is the same. The Georgia indictment involves the conduct of the election and its aftermath. If President Trump is immune from the federal prosecution, he'll be immune from the state prosecution too. Judge McAfee said, look, all right, state, I'm dismissing these 6 counts of the indictment because you failed to provide enough information. I'm going to give you an opportunity to do so. They might, but that is going to delay these proceedings even longer.
And you talk about delays. Does the fact that these charges were dropped cause any change to the timeline of this case in Georgia?
I doubt it, because there are still charges pending against all of these defendants, and he's got to consider all of those. I don't think there's any way this case is going to get tried between now and the time of the election, and I don't see anything changing as a result of the ruling yesterday. It certainly made it a little bit easier for the defendants to take on these charges.
So what's next in this case here, John?
Well, we're going to hear what Scott McAfee has to say about Fani Willis. If he recuses her in her office from the case, then the case is going to get reassigned to a new prosecutor, and I assume that the prosecutor will decide whether to continue prosecuting this case. If Fani Willis remains in the case, I suppose the defendants may try to appeal that, and the judge is going to have to still consider the motions to dismiss the remaining charges in the indictment on the merits of those arguments.
Well, thank you for your analysis. John Malcolm at the Heritage Foundation.
Great to be with you.
A bill that could ultimately ban TikTok from devices across America is one step closer to becoming a reality. The House passing the bill yesterday.
Now when it's on its way to the Senate, President Biden has said he'd sign off on it if it reaches his desk. NTD's Jack Bradley has more.
The House just passed a bipartisan bill that would force TikTok to divest from its Chinese parent company ByteDance or else be banned in U.S. app stores. Now the House voted 352 to 65 with one Democrat voting present, and that meets the 2/3 majority threshold to send it to the Senate now on an expedited basis. We heard some strong comments against the Chinese regime's control over user data, even by those who oppose the bill.
The data rights of Americans have got to be safe from foreign government manipulation.
I think there are serious national security concerns. I voted no. There are constitutional questions, I think, in the way it was crafted. There are timeline questions. 180 days to sell a company this size is very difficult.
We got a significant amount of information that they're clearly purposely playing with the data, playing with the content and targeting. For example, limiting speech when it comes to COVID, or limiting content with respect to Tiananmen Square or Hong Kong or Taiwan.
I share the data privacy concerns. I share the data concerns, but I think to rush this the way it's been rushed, and I also think the fact that we're not taking into consideration the amount of users is enormous.
The communists do not have a good, noble agenda for America, period. And TikTok is in the hands of the Chinese government.
We just don't want it in the hands of an entity that is clearly antagonistic to the interest of this country and clearly has no moral grounding.
Chinese law requires TikTok and other companies based in China to hand over user data to the regime. Now, since this bill came out, TikTok has been lobbying its 170 million users in the U.S. to contact their representatives and push back against this bill. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer has not indicated how he'll vote. If the Senate passes this bill, President Biden has vowed to sign it. Reporting from Washington, D.C., Jack Bradley, NTD News.
The House Republican Conference is gathering in West Virginia for their annual policy retreat.
Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez was at the Greenbrier Resort where the event is taking place to bring us this report.
Good morning. Yes, we are here in West Virginia, in White Sulphur Springs, at the Greenbrier Historic Resort. It's a historic resort because it was built in 1913, over 100 years ago. But it's also historic because in 1962, the government built a fallout shelter for Congress to relocate in case of a nuclear war. So the House GOP conference is meeting here for 3 days, starting yesterday, Thursday, throughout Friday. The congressmen will gather to strategize about their policy concerns. Speaker Johnson last night announced that they would be discussing Bidenomics. They would be discussing the failed foreign policy of President Biden, but also strategies for the impeachment inquiry against President Biden, and also, of course, speaking and discussing the strategy for the appropriation bills debate that is coming up for next week. Let's remember that a week from Friday, Congress has to approve the second set of 6 appropriation bills in order to fund government through fiscal year 2024. So it will be interesting to see what will happen in the next 2 days. We already know something that is particularly notable, which is that less than 100 congressmen have shown up for this GOP retreat, which is a big blow for Speaker Johnson and his leadership. Back to you.
And does an extra day off a week sound good? Senator Bernie Sanders thinks so.
The independent senator introduced a bill yesterday to establish a 4-day work week with no cut in pay.
Sanders says American workers are over 400% more productive than they were in the 1940s, but that millions are working longer hours for lower wages than they were decades ago.
The senator says the financial gains from the big leaps in AI, automation, and new technology must be shared with the working class.
Under the 32-hour Work Week Act, overtime pay would start after 32 hours and would be calculated at a rate of 1.5 times a person's salary for workdays longer than 8 hours.
And workers would get twice their regular pay for workdays longer than 12 hours. Securing the southern border, the border wall is nearly 2,000 miles long, and at some spots, it has some serious flaws. NTD's Arian Pastar brings us more from California.
At this specific spot right here, the border wall seems secure. I couldn't just jump from here to the other side. But that's not the case everywhere. At some locations, the wall fails to do its only job, to divide the US from Mexico. You might have seen clips like this one, showing people crossing into the United States and California illegally, thanks to a hole in the border wall. A Marine Corps veteran and business owner decided to take matters into her own hands.
All over the news. A lot of people have come out here to film this hole in the wall. No one has yet to come and secure this hole in the fence. If you want something done, sometimes you got to do it yourself.
I decided to sit down with Kate Monroe to ask her why she purchased the concertina wire and drove down to the border to fix the hole.
I just want to show Americans that We don't have to go quietly into the night. This is a republic. We can stand up and do things for ourselves.
During one of the many trips to the border, Kate found a number of discarded passports on the Mexican side of the wall.
I got Pakistan. I'm sure this is safe. No ill will there. Oh, we got a little bit of China, Ecuador. We got some Ethiopia. But when they get to the border and they want to pretend to get asylum, they don't want to say who they are. So they leave all of their identification on the other side of the border. Now, if I could pick this up, do you think it's that hard for the border agents to pick it up?
But do they pick it up?
They never pick it up. There's hundreds of them scattered all over the ground.
She added that she's currently running background checks on the names found on the passports. That's to see if the individuals are on any watch lists. Kate says 90% of the immigrants she spoke with told her that their trips are paid for by American organizations.
They get met by these organizations that give them a translation phone, lunch, new clothes, a ticket wherever they're going to go. We're advertising, we have money, come here, and why would you not come here?
Coming up, President Biden campaigns across the Midwest after securing the Democratic nomination.
He was in Wisconsin on Wednesday, where he sought votes in the key swing state. And Republican National Committee suing the state of Michigan. They say there are more registered voters than adult residents. Michigan's Secretary of State responds.
Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. sets a date to pick a running mate for the 2024 race. His top two picks sparking sharp criticism from the DNC.
As we naturally age, many people are getting zero amount of this incredible and unique substance. That's when we start seeing an impact in our joints, skin, nails, and even our digestion.
People ask me, Dr. X, what is the #1 supplement I should be taking? My answer is multi-collagen protein.
People's reactions to me, people were like, what are you doing? What is going on? You look amazing. You have a glow about you.
What makes Ancient Nutrition Multi-Collagen stand out from other brands? 10 types of collagen. It's grass-fed, pasture-raised with vitamin C and probiotics. It's proven to reduce joint discomfort rapidly, continuously, and persistently. It improves the appearance of crow's feet after 4 weeks and improves skin tone after 8 weeks. And it promotes hair thickness, growth, and a reduction in hair breakage.
It has transformed everything from my hair. Like, my hair was starting to kind of just, come out, and I don't have that anymore. My skin feels amazing.
Call the number on your screen and find out how to get a free bottle when you order, plus free shipping and our 30-day money-back guarantee. And as a bonus, we will include Dr. Josh Axe and Jordan Rubin's revolutionary book, Multi-Collagen Makeover, free with your order, plus free shipping and free returns.
I have implicit trust in Dr. Axe because the plan worked. I'm living proof of it.
This is the collagen protein that is backed by clinical studies. It's what my family uses, it's what I use, and I know you're going to benefit in a big way as well.
Love the results or get your money back. This special TV offer is not available in stores. Call the number on your screen or go online now.
Ancient Scandinavians, often referred to as the Vikings, might not have been so simple and barbaric as they've been portrayed for the last decades. In order to understand the Vikings on a deeper level, we need to take a closer look at their original belief system, their earliest ethical principles and worldview, which are revealed in the myths, stories, and prophecies of their times. In many of the Viking stories, we learn about the dangers of corruption of the human soul. And all this ties into how and why the world and humankind eventually degenerates, leading up to the end times and the last battle between good and evil.
In this episode, we're going to take a look into the inner world of the ancient Scandinavians and get acquainted with two of their most central tales that reveal their guiding principles for humankind, both for themselves as well as for mankind in modern times.
Thanks for staying with us. President Biden is campaigning for votes across the Midwest, promising to invest in local communities and taking aim at former President Trump.
Biden was in the swing state of Wisconsin yesterday after securing the Democratic nomination for president.
President Biden announced infrastructure investments in Milwaukee on Wednesday for major highways and roads.
I'm here to announce the first of its kind investment, $3.3 billion in 132 projects in 42 states.
He claimed his rival's campaign threatens the very idea of America. He also accused Trump of wanting to make cuts to Social Security and Medicare and spoke about what he would do differently.
Instead of cutting Social Security and Medicare to give tax breaks to the super wealthy, I'm going to protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Biden won Wisconsin by less than 1% of the vote in 2020. The state is part of the so-called Blue Wall, along with Michigan and Pennsylvania. These are states that were historic Democratic strongholds. Trump flipped all three states in 2016. Biden won them back in 2020, but they have remained battleground states ever since. But Biden's biggest issues continue to plague his campaign. About 100 protesters waving Palestinian flags rallied close to Biden's campaign headquarters in Milwaukee. The protesters marched through the streets earlier to protest Biden's response to Israel's war in Gaza. Biden plans to move on to Michigan on Thursday. It's part of a month-long I'm on board blitz aimed at rallying supporters in 7 swing states that could decide the 2024 election.
And Vice President Kamala Harris plans to tour a Minnesota abortion clinic today.
This as Democrats play up their opposition to the rollback of abortion access in an effort to re-elect President Biden in November.
It will be the first time that a president or vice president has been to an abortion clinic, according to Harris's office. Her trip to the Minneapolis-St. Paul area is part of a nationwide tour she began in January.
Harris aims to draw attention to the fallout after the U.S. Supreme Court in 2022 overturned Roe v. Wade. The decision cleared the way for Republican-led states to enact limitations or bans on abortion.
Abortion access has proven to be a potent issue, driving voters to the polls, and could be pivotal in the presidential race and congressional elections this year. Now let's chat more about this year's Trump-Biden rematch. We're bringing in Jeff Crouere for some analysis. He is a political analyst and a TV and radio host. Good morning, Jeff. Good to have you back. Now, one of the differences, good morning. One difference in this rematch is that it must be one of the longest general election campaigns in history. It was clear for both sides that they would be the nominee pretty early on. So tell me what the benefits of that are, or perhaps the challenges.
Well, one of the benefits is that both campaigns can get their teams in place and put the entire structure together early. Like, look at what the Republicans are doing now with the Trump campaign. President Trump has his people now in place at the RNC. He's got his daughter-in-law there. There's a new chair. So now they're going to have their people working closely together with the campaign months early compared to usual. So I think it'll help both sides really get organized early because, as you say, it's a rematch. It's going to be familiar territory for both campaigns. And I mean, we really have been in campaign season for a long time. So this just ramps it up to a new level. And I found it very interesting about your reports. And you're going to see abortion really being an issue pushed by the Democrats, no doubt about it.
Right, and this time around, Trump has a bunch of legal issues as well. So Republicans say, of course, that it garnered him support. What do you think?
You know, there are challenges, too, because he's going to be distracted by all of these legal challenges. It costs money, it's going to cost time, and it is going to take him away from the campaign trail. But it really has backfired politically in that he hasn't lost support. His base is still with him. A poll I saw the other day shows that 97% of the people that were with Donald Trump in the last election are still with him. He hasn't had any kind of an erosion in his support, whereas Biden has. So that's why the polls right now show Donald Trump ahead in most of the battleground states and also nationally. So I think Democrats are surprised that President Trump is so strong considering everything he is facing. You know, he just had some good news yesterday with some of the charges in Georgia being dropped.
Right, that's pretty an interesting point that you make, because perhaps he got that stable support from his base. But let's talk about what if it comes down to, you know, widening his support and maybe gaining votes from Haley voters, for instance, or independents. What do you think are those legal challenges doing to him then?
Well, yeah, the Haley voters are going to be a key battleground because Joe Biden's already making a pitch for them. And these are people that are certainly not on board with Donald Trump initially. So they're going to have a decision to make. I mean, are they going to stick with their Republican choice, Donald Trump, or are they going to vote for Joe Biden? Normally in an election, the economy is the number one issue. In this election, immigration is also at the very top. So those are two issues that I think work against the Democrats and help President Trump, in that the economy, according to most polls, is not strong. Immigration is a big issue. So they're trying to focus on abortion, climate change, some other issues that right now are not at the top as far as polls. So that's where I think Trump has a built-in advantage, despite the legal challenges and despite all of the time he's going to have to focus on that over these next few months.
Right, and also, of course, both have a track record and have been in office before. Is that a good thing, or are there things that they can use for their leverage?
Well, the track record is important because you know, what Trump can say is, hey, you know, are we better off than we were 4 years ago when I was president? It's the saying that President Reagan made famous when he ran against Jimmy Carter. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? I think if people are asked that question today, their answer is going to be no. We're not better off. We've had inflation and interest rates and all the economic problems. What Biden is doing, his strategy is to paint Donald Trump and his supporters as extremists, as people that are going to destroy the country. We can't afford to bring him back into the White House. So that's their strategy, to sort of demonize the Republicans, demonize the MAGA movement and Donald Trump, where I think President Trump can just compare his presidency to the Biden presidency and just ask Americans, you know, are you better off than you were 4 years ago when I was president? And I think that works to his advantage.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for your take on all this. Jeff Carrere, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And the Republican National Committee sued Michigan's Secretary of State yesterday in an effort to trim the state's voter rolls.
The lawsuit claims that Michigan is violating the National Voter Registration Act by failing to maintain accurate rolls.
The lawsuit claims that at least 53 counties in Michigan have more active registered voters than they have citizens over the age of 18.
Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson hit back. She told NBC News that officials have done more in the last 5 years than was done in the previous 2 decades to remove deceased voters and ineligible citizens from the rolls.
She called the lawsuit a PR campaign and accused the plaintiff of abusing the legal process. Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he'll announce his running mate near the end of the month.
2 of his confirmed VP picks are NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers and former Minnesota governor and retired pro wrestler Jesse Ventura. That's according to multiple media outlets, citing a spokesperson from the Kennedy campaign.
Kennedy made the announcement on X. He thanked supporters for the most successful independent campaign in decades.
Rodgers endorsed Kennedy last year after the two found common ground with COVID vaccine concerns. Rodgers is expected to play for the New York Jets this year, returning from injury.
A Democratic National Committee advisor reacted by calling Kennedy's shortlist a Three Stooges reunion. No one is asking for. The DNC advisor stated it's no surprise considering the conspiracy theorists doing the choosing.
Kennedy launched his independent bid in October last year after accusing the DNC of rigging the party's primary elections. The 2024 hopeful says support coming in shows Americans are tired of division and are looking for a leader who can heal the divide.
And after the break, Russian President Vladimir Putin talking nuclear war and how Russia is prepared for it, how the U.S. and one of Russia's neighbors are reacting.
A U.S. customs officer in Chicago targeting American artists with propaganda from the Chinese Communist Party. A lawmaker now calling for an investigation into possible CCP infiltration of the U.S. government.
The political crisis in Haiti continues as plans to install new leadership hit roadblocks. Gang violence has rocked the Caribbean nation in recent weeks, with no clear solution on the table.
I have never seen a production any better than this, anywhere.
Breathtaking. It is absolutely stunning.
I feel better about the world. I feel uplifted.
Invigorating. It was encouraging. Gave me hope.
This has just been therapy for the soul.
It's a must-see. Must-see.
Make sure you see it. Make sure you see it.
Coming to Lincoln Center, April 3rd through the 14th. Buy tickets now at shenyun.com.
With Life Alert, one touch of a button can get you help fast.
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Don't worry, help is on the way.
With any of Life Alert's 3 emergency systems, help can be summoned immediately, and batteries never need charging.
I was having a stroke, and I was scared to death.
If it weren't for Life Alert, I wouldn't be sitting here today.
Life Alert is a lifesaver.
My husband is alive because of Life Alert.
Life Alert is the lifesaver to keep me out of assisted living.
Life Alert saves a life every 11 minutes.
For a free Life Alert brochure, call 1-800-565-4808. That's 1-800-565-4808. Call now, 1-800-565-4808.
What was the process of actually putting this all together?
Many hours of finding the right camera angles and watching it. The first trouble started just after 1 o'clock.
45 pages, here it is right here. Donald Trump has been indicted.
Somber day for the country.
This all happened before President Trump's speech was over.
The founder of the Oath Keepers militia group is headed to prison for more than 18 years.
His lawyers didn't have this video. The video we're watching right now, his own lawyers did not have. There was a big question of what did the people do who actually did enter the building.
This is where we picked it up with the security footage that is new. At this point, the story dramatically changes.
The New Jersey man who assaulted a Capitol police officer on January 6th has been sentenced.
So this was withheld.
This was not shown to the defense.
That could be considered exculpatory evidence. This doesn't seem like what a lot of the media is showing.
It's going to change narratives no matter what your political perspective is. What we're after is the truth.
Thanks for staying with us. Ready for nuclear war, an ominous message from Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday to the West.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the statement from Putin, who said any sending of American troops to Ukraine would be considered a significant escalation of the conflict.
The Russian leader was speaking ahead of a March 15th through 17th election, which is certain to give him another 6 years in power. Putin added that the nuclear war scenario was not rushing up, and he saw no need for the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Putin says the U.S. understands that if it deployed American troops on Russian territory or to Ukraine, Russia would treat the move as an intervention. The Russian leader says the use of nuclear weapons is spelled out in the Kremlin's nuclear doctrine. The doctrine justifies use of such weapons if Russia is attacked by nuclear weapons or attacked by conventional weapons when the very existence of the state is put under threat. The Biden administration has said it has no plans to send troops to Ukraine, but has stressed the need to approve a stalled security aid bill that would ensure Ukrainian troops get more weapons to continue the war, now in its 3rd year. The White House National Security Council said in a statement that Russia's nuclear rhetoric has been reckless and irresponsible throughout this conflict. Russia's neighbor Finland also weighed in on the situation with Russia. Prime Minister Petteri Orpo said Wednesday Russia was gearing up for a long conflict with the West. The Finnish leader asked for more spending and coordination on European defense. Putin said Wednesday that Finland and Sweden's entry into NATO was a meaningless step and said Russia will deploy troops and systems of destruction to the Finnish border after Finland joins the alliance. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
European Union countries have committed to providing $5.5 billion in military aid to Ukraine.
EU ambassadors agreed to reform the European Peace Facility. It regulates how member countries handle their defense budgets and military support operations.
The European Peace Facility has already allocated over $6.5 billion in military aid to Ukraine.
Last year, a new cash pot specifically for Ukraine was proposed with a budget of up to $5.5 billion per year for the following 4 years.
This prompted a prolonged debate over rules for future aid. Hungary argued that it did not want its contributions to finance arms for Ukraine.
EU officials say that under the new deal, Hungary's contributions will finance military aid to other countries.
The EU Parliament has given the green light to the first ever artificial intelligence law.
The law's co-authors say it deals with both innovation and safety. NTD's Virginia Gibson has the story.
Vote is closed. And it is adopted. Congratulations on this seminal work.
The European Parliament has approved the AI Act, the world's first law regulating artificial intelligence.
It is going to be the technology that will be driving us into the future, and at the same time, clearly there are risks.
The law's co-author, Dragos Tudorake, says AI's impact will intersect with individual rights and society's interests. He says the act deals with both. AI growth is surging. Many expect it to have a significant impact on society, stoking fears of job loss, privacy invasion, even the end of humanity. Key provisions of the act: it bans AI-powered social scoring systems. It bans programs that read emotions at school and at work. It requires all deepfakes to be labeled, and it will adapt to technological change. The act regulates based on risk levels. Higher risk means stricter rules. Critical infrastructure, education, the justice system are all high risk. Low-risk applications make up the vast majority of AI systems. These include AI video games and spam filters.
There may be some slower progress given the necessary checks that have to take place, but it will be for the betterment of society.
Daniel Christman is a co-founder at Cranium AI. He appreciates the EU's iterative approach.
So this isn't something that's going to be published and then ever looked at again. They're establishing an AI office and an advisory board to really influence the further revisions for how the regulatory requirements can really meet the pace of innovation.
Christman says organizations like his are closely following these events because the EU laws may influence laws in other places, such as the United States. Virginia Gibson, NTD News.
And a U.S. Customs officer targeting an American performing arts company with Chinese propaganda.
The incident now leading to calls for a thorough investigation of possible infiltration into the U.S. government. NTD's Iris Tao has more from Chicago.
2 days ago at the O'Hare International Airport, performers of the U.S.-based Shen Yun Performing Arts were coming back from a successful performance tour in Europe. But when they were going through the customs, an officer with a Chinese accent targeted the performers with the same hate propaganda that a Chinese Communist Party would use to target religious believers.
It just sounded like he was trying to put words into my mouth, like, are you being sponsored by Falun Gong? And so I just said, I don't think I have to answer that question because we escaped from China, but this feels like as if we were being talked to by Chinese government. This is the US, like, I'm coming home. And this is something that should never happen in the US.
Many of Shen Yun performers practice Falun Gong, a spiritual discipline severely persecuted in communist China. And the officer allegedly also told other officers that Shen Yun dancers were illegal because of their faith. That questioning came despite all of the performers holding either U.S. citizenship or legal visas. In a statement, a CBP spokesperson says CBP strictly prohibits profiling on the basis of race or religion, and that CBP does not tolerate actions that are inconsistent with our core values. And Congressman Ryan Babin, meanwhile, calling for a thorough investigation, saying in a statement that we should never allow the PRC, one of the most repressive countries on the planet, to have influence over our federal government. An immigration lawyer told NTD that the U.S. government needs to strengthen background checks of its officers.
Because you can imagine lots of examples where the government of China would do well for itself to plant people within the U.S. government, asylum officers, USCIS officers, any position within the government. The Falun Gong is one group that certainly has been targeted over the years within the United States, and it's important for the U.S. government to be aware about that and to try to actively prevent such threats.
Just last year, the FBI arrested 2 suspected Chinese agents and charged them with attempting to bribe a public official in the scheme targeting Falun Gong in the United States. Reporting in Chicago, Illinois, Iris Tao, NTD News.
And overseas, the political crisis in Haiti continues, even as the country has its second day of uneasy calm after the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry.
Politicians across Haiti are scrambling for power after Henry announced Tuesday he would resign once a transitional presidential council is created.
Haitian ex-Senator Jean-Charles Moise held a news conference on Wednesday to announce his rejection of the international community's proposed presidential council. Instead, he proposed an alternative council created with a former rebel leader and a Haitian judge. He said the creation of this council wasn't up for negotiation. Former rebel leader Guy Philippe, a Moise ally, said Haitians will decide who will govern Haiti. Philippe was recently released from a United States prison after pleading guilty to money laundering. Other prominent Haitian politicians also rejected the proposed transitional council, which was agreed upon by the Caribbean trade bloc and the United States on Tuesday. Among them, a former Army colonel whose party would serve on the Transitional Council. In a statement, he said he prefers that a judge from Haiti's Supreme Court assume the reins of power. There were small protests on the street of the capital, Port-au-Prince, in which demonstrators held placards lambasting the Caribbean community, or CARICOM.
We want to tell the CARICOM that they cannot choose for us. It's the Haitian people who fought in the streets and who revoked Prime Minister Ariel Henry. We are the ones to install someone at the National Palace.
U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken, who was part of the decision-making process to try and resolve the ongoing crisis, said the political transition in Haiti is moving forward. In a press conference, Blinken said he hoped Haiti would soon be in a place where an international security mission can go forward.
I was on the phone this morning with President Ruto of Kenya, who confirmed Kenya's preparedness to lead that mission. As soon as this new council is stood up, which we believe will happen in the next couple of days.
Meanwhile, the Haitian community in New York welcomed Henry's decision to step down, but were skeptical about international intervention in Haiti.
Please give Haiti a chance to choose his own destination, because we want to go in forward.
You will hear that the international community will say, well, they prepared this time to let emerge a Haitian-led solution. But that's in words, because whenever a true Haitian-led solution is presented, they do whatever they want to sabotage it.
The long-delayed mission is intended to boost outgunned local police and restore order in Haiti, the Western Hemisphere's poorest nation.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un yesterday guided a military demonstration involving tank units and drove one himself. That's according to state media reports.
The tank drills come as South Korea and the U.S. are wrapping up their annual military exercises to bolster readiness against Pyongyang.
According to North Korean state-run outlet KCNA, yesterday's military event was designed to inspect the combat capabilities of tank crews and make them familiar with different tactical missions.
During the drills, Kim reportedly told his troops to bolster their fighting spirits and complete preparations for war.
The tank was first unveiled during a military parade in 2020, and Korean experts say Wednesday's drills indicate it's ready to be deployed.
In South Korea, the joint annual drills with the U.S., known as the Freedom Shield exercises, will come to an end today. And up next, car insurance rates are up almost 21% for the 12 months ending in February. That's the highest annual jump in nearly 50 years. Factors behind the rapid increase coming up.
presenting the heritage of traditional Chinese martial arts, fostering martial ethics, and reviving the true tradition. The preliminaries for the 2024 NTD International Traditional Martial Arts Competition will be held across New York, Taiwan, and Germany. The grand finals will be broadcast live online worldwide in August 2024. For more information, please call 1-888-477-9228.
What most people know from Christopher Columbus is that in 1492,
Columbus sailed the ocean blue.
There's so much more to the story of Columbus that today very few people know the actual story of Columbus. For example, Columbus had more than one voyage to America, which is shocking for most people to discover, but the reality is he had 4 voyages. And today, in modern culture, there's a lot of people very critical of Christopher Columbus. In fact, over the last couple of years, when there was a movement to tear down statues, Christopher Columbus had over 600 statues erected to him around the world, and the vast majority of those statues were torn down, were vandalized.
But they're really tearing down these monuments of Columbus without even knowing what Columbus even did.
Right, and so let's go through this, because some of the accusations we hear today is, right, Columbus enslaved the Native Americans. You can hear a lot of negative things today, so let's just back up.
Water, nature's ultimate cleaner. We drink it, we bathe in it. Think water, think steam, think clean. Now harness the power of water with the H2O X5 5-in-1 steam cleaning system.
I'm so impressed with the X5. It's an all-in-one product, so I can use it throughout my entire house.
It's cleaning, it's sanitizing, there's no chemicals in it. It's just steam.
This is unbelievable. There is no more odor. You could spend over $500 to purchase the products that the X5 5-in-1 Miracle replaces. Order your H2O X5 steam cleaning system, a $500 value, for just 4 easy payments of $43. Order now and we'll upgrade your X5 package. We'll add a 6th mode with a dusting and polishing wand. Valued at over $30, this extra bonus attachment makes your H2O X5 the H2O X6. That means your 10-piece system becomes a 12-piece system at no extra cost to you. All for just 3 easy payments of $43. Call or click right now.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. We also have NTD's business host Don Ma with us now to give us the latest updates from the financial world.
Don, let's talk about cars.
Yeah, so car insurance costs are surging, and it's something that we really haven't seen in nearly 50 years. And as well as I wanted to talk to you guys about the US office market, which some are saying it's actually the most oversupplied in the world. Okay, so car insurance costs first. Costs are up almost 21%, as you mentioned earlier before the break, and that's for the 12 months ending in February. Now, this is the biggest increase that we've seen in nearly half a century. The last time car insurance rates rose that much on an annual basis was all the way back in 1976. All right, but not all states have it quite as bad. There's a lot of variation from state to state regarding the car insurance rate increases that drivers are facing. And that's partially because auto insurers price their plans based on losses they're incurring on a state-by-state basis. Nevada drivers saw the highest jump, an increase of 38%. That's even higher than the 21% that we mentioned earlier. And in North Carolina, we have the smallest bump in car insurance rates, up just 5.5%. Now, that's just a huge contrast, and that just goes to show how different each state may have their car insurance costs rising.
Right. Ouch, because things are expensive as they are, expensive enough as they are. So tell us more about what's behind the increase. You touched on it a little bit, but let's go into a bit more detail here.
Sure. So there's not just one reason, actually. It's a combination of factors, but I think one of them partially driving up the cost is that severe, frequent car accidents. That's what we're seeing for one of the reasons. The number of traffic deaths in the US was up by around 7,000 in 2022 compared to before the pandemic, according to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration's latest estimates. And that has led to an increase in claims that is well above historical averages because of their severity. Now, according to LexisNexis Risk Solutions data, insurers booked losses on 27% of collision claims in 2022. That's about 3 percentage points higher than 2021. And the data firm also attributes the rise to riskier driving behaviors, such as speeding and texting while driving behind the wheel, as well as driving under the influence as well. All the reasons that is leading to a rise in accidents, actually.
John, in addition to that, when you lease or buy a car, you have the option to lower your insurance rates by giving away your data. And the New York Times reports that data from the app, it tracks whether you brake too harshly or whether you're speeding. And insurance companies can get that data and jack up your rates because of it. Let's move on. Let's talk about the U.S. office market. How is that looking right now?
Right. So according to a global alternative asset management company, the U.S. office market is the most oversupplied in the world per capita. But unfortunately, the US seems to have built too much, and in some areas just doesn't need that much supply. And a sharp rise in borrowing costs as well since 2022, and a jump in people working from home has emptied many offices in the United States. And what this has done is that it has pummeled the value of many property assets. So office vacancy rates are hovering at around 20% in US cities. Now, despite some companies calling for a return to the office, remote work has sort of taken root, if you will, with a large segment of the workforce, and this situation actually resembles something similar that we've seen back in 2008, if you guys remember, which is a decline in real estate leading to potential repercussions for banks, the broader economy as well, and there's some close parallels to the global financial crisis because of that. But the current troubles in commercial real estate could result in reduced property taxes revenues as well for local governments, which is not good because it impacts essential services like public safety and sanitation. As a result, some cities have experienced population declines, people moving out because they're working more from home to rural areas, and then this could further strain their tax bases for the cities, perpetuating a cycle potentially of urban decline. But I do believe that regulators, in this case, in 2024, probably has more tools at their disposal compared to 2008 if there were something to happen.
That's right. And it just sounds like this is something that was left over for us. A lot of experts after COVID were saying there will be long-term changes in how we work. It just looks like it's taking shape now. So speaking of a down market, though, tell me more about what's happening with Family Dollar and Dollar Tree.
Yeah, a bit of unfortunate news on that front. Family Dollar and Dollar Tree are closing nearly 1,000 stores, and Family Dollar will close 600 in the first half of this year, and at least 370 more over the next several years as store leases expire. Now, parent company Dollar Tree said it's going to close 30 stores as leases expire. Many Family Dollar stores have been plagued by health and safety concerns. This year, the struggling discount chain was hit with a record $41.5 million fine for violating product safety standards. And the U.S. Justice Department said the chain was selling items that were stocked in a rat-infested warehouse. So Family Dollar and Dollar Tree merged together in 2015 for $8.5 billion. The combined company hoped that by joining forces, it could fight off bigger retailers like Dollar General and Walmart, but I don't know how well that turned out.
Well, yeah, Dollar Tree says that they have not decided where they haven't revealed where those store closures will be or what states will be affected. But here, Don Ma, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks, Don.
Stay with us. Are New York City pizza joints about to get sliced? A freshly baked oven emissions law could be putting some of them out of business. That story coming up.
Stay tuned to get 2 rolls of alien tape free. You wouldn't stick your mother-in-law on the wall, but you could with alien tape. It just sticks. Just peel and stick to make anything stay in place quick. Brick, pavers, marble, tile, plastic, even leather. Nothing works better than alien tape. You wouldn't stick your fishbowl on a moving car, but you could with alien tape. The secret is nano-stick technology that grabs and locks on to secure one side of the surface to the other. Alien tape secures in seconds, then twist, pull, and rinse to reuse. Call or go online to get your first roll of alien tape for just $19.99, plus shipping and processing. But to make this deal really stick, we'll give you 2 more rolls absolutely free. You get 3 rolls of alien tape for one low price. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-490-1364 or go to tryalientape.com. So call 1-800-490-1364 or order online at tryalientape.com.
What if you could whiten your teeth by simply brushing your teeth? Now you can with Smile Actives, the teeth whitening breakthrough that safely gets your teeth white and keeps them white every day, just by brushing your teeth.
I never thought that whitening my teeth could be so easy. I just put the gel on the brush, the toothpaste on it, brush, and I can see my white teeth.
Simply add Smile Actives to any toothpaste and our patented PolyClean technology activates into a powerful microfoam that penetrates into the enamel surface to safely lift and remove stains.
You need a simple way to whiten your teeth. Without strips, without trays, without going to the dentist. And it was about time that a product was developed that you would be able to do that with just brushing.
And now, Smile Actives is even better with new Pro Whitening Gel with 33% greater whitening power, clinically shown to whiten teeth faster, up to 8 shades. 100% of users saw whiter teeth. On food stains, coffee and wine stains, even on veneers, crowns, and dentures.
I eat the blueberries, I drink the coffee, and I know that Smile Actives will keep my teeth white every day.
If you could use something so easy like Smile Actives to take yellow teeth to white teeth, why wouldn't you?
Why spend hundreds of dollars for whitening treatments at the dentist when now you can whiten your teeth with new Smile Actives Pro Whitening Gel every time you brush your teeth? Call or go to smileactives.com and for a limited time get new Pro Whitening Gel for just $24.95. Order in the next 5 minutes and buy one get one absolutely free for just $24.95. That's 2 for 1 and save 58%. We'll even include free shipping. Get your teeth whiter guaranteed or return it within 60 days for your money back.
I smile every day now.
The difference is literally night and day.
So now I'm always smiling, always choosing, because now my teeth are much whiter.
This offer is not available in stores, so call or click now before the special buy one get one free offer goes away.
Welcome back. Give us pizza or give us death. That's what one disgruntled New Yorker shouted as he lobbed pizza slices at City Hall in Manhattan last summer.
He was protesting a proposed law that would cost some pizzerias big. Now that law has just been approved to take effect. NTD's Chris Beers has more.
New York City lawmakers approved a law that forces wood or coal oven pizza shops and bakeries to install smoke filtration systems. The goal is to reduce emissions and appease the neighbors of these shops who sometimes complain about smoke from the ovens. Paul Giannoni, owner of Paulie G's wood-fired pizza, weighs in.
It's a big expense, and they're talking about 100 to 130 ovens in all of New York City that need to do this. And, you know, I think that what it's going to do, it's going to discourage people from opening up the type of pizzeria we have, which I think is a shame because, it's a very romantic kind of way to cook pizza.
The law taking effect next month will make establishments cut emissions by 75%. If they can't, they would have to submit an assessment and explain how they can cut emissions by at least 25%. Paulie G spent $20,000 to install a filter on his oven in 2020. He estimates with inflation that cost could now be $25,000.
Somebody who's not making money, $25,000 is a lot of money, right? And, you know, since the pandemic, there are a lot of places that are not doing nearly as well as they used to. Their food costs have gone up, their labor costs have gone up, people aren't going out as much, and it can really hurt them.
New York City Councilman Justin Brannan has proposed tax breaks for the estimated 130 pizzerias and bakeries this law would apply to. This is Chris Beers reporting for NTD News in New York City.
Not sure about or give me death, but I would be pretty upset if I would lose that easy access to those New York pizzas.
Yeah, well, and it's a balance, you know, clean air and thriving businesses.
That's right. All right, quick break and we'll be right back, so stay with us.
NTD News, the fastest growing independent news source in America, bringing you breaking news from around the world. Expert analysis, investigative reporting, and original award-winning documentaries. We're known for our uncensored China coverage you won't find anywhere else. We cover the stories that affect you and shape our world without the political noise. We report from the heart with you in mind. Watch us right here on NTD News.
Good morning. Welcome to NTD.
Good morning. Here are today's top stories. A judge throws out several charges in former President Trump's Georgia election case, and he's set to rule on a motion to disqualify Fulton County DA Fani Willis by the end of the week.
The House passes a bipartisan bill targeting TikTok. The fate of the bill now in the hands of the Senate. Hear one lawmaker's thoughts on the social media app.
Russian President Vladimir Putin talking nuclear war and how Russia is prepared for it, what the U.S. and one of Russia's neighbors have to say about it.
President Biden campaigning for votes in the key swing state of Wisconsin and announcing billions of dollars in new infrastructure investments.
Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. sets a date to pick a 2024 running mate, his top two picks sparking sharp criticism from the DNC.
A traffic stop in Ohio got a little wild when a pair of turkeys followed police pulling a car over. We have the video.
This is NTD Good Morning. Live from our global headquarters, here are Evelyn Lee and Kevin Hogan.
Welcome to NTD.
Welcome everyone. Today is Thursday, March 13th. Today's top news. The judge in the Georgia election case against former President Trump and his co-defendants threw out some of the charges yesterday, but left most of the sprawling indictment intact.
The judge in a filing said prosecutors' allegations on the dismissed charges were not detailed enough. He also says prosecutors failed to specify what underlying felony defendants were allegedly soliciting.
The judge says prosecutors can seek a new, more detailed indictment on those counts. He gave a 6-month deadline to resubmit the case to a grand jury.
The judge quashed 3 charges that apply to Trump. Those charges related to a phone call over the 2020 election results made to the Georgia Secretary of State.
The ruling comes ahead of the judge's highly anticipated decision this week on whether Fulton County DA Fani Willis should be disqualified. Willis is accused of financially benefiting from an improper relationship with a prosecutor she hired, Nathan Wade. In the classified documents case, former President Trump and co-defendant Walt Nauta will attend a hearing later this morning in a Florida district court. Their attorneys will argue 2 motions to dismiss the indictment against them. They're accused of conspiring to conceal classified documents and obstructing justice. We're joined now by our legal correspondent, Arlene Richards, who's outside the courthouse in Fort Pierce, Florida. Good morning, Arlene. It's really good to see you. So, former President Trump isn't required to be in court today. Fill us in. Why is he choosing to be there, and what can we expect?
Well, good morning. Yes, President Trump and his two valets don't have to be here, but we are expecting them within the hour. Throughout his campaign, President Trump has taken the opportunity to speak at various court proceedings, and I expect that he will do the same thing here today. I think he's going to say that this case is election interference and that it should never have been brought under the criminal statutes, but that it should have been brought under the Presidential Records Act.
And Trump has also repeatedly said that under the Presidential Records Act, he had the authority to remove those records from the White House. So what can we expect the prosecution to argue today about that?
Well, according to their filing, the prosecution is going to argue that all of the events that occurred in this case happened after Trump left office and that his claim that he has immunity under the act is meritless. But Trump's attorneys are going to say that he was, in fact, the president when he ordered those boxes to be removed from the White House to Florida, and therefore he had the authority to designate those boxes of documents as his personal property.
Now, I also want to know, because on Tuesday, Congress interviewed former special counsel Robert Hur, who investigated President Biden for storing classified documents in his home and several other places. Now, Hur decided not to charge Biden due to his poor memory. Tell us what has been Trump's response to that.
So before Robert Hur testified, Trump did make a statement on Truth Social, and I want to read that to you now. He said, "He had many times more documents, including classified documents, than I or any other president had. He had them all over the place with zero supervision or security. He does not come under the Presidential Records Act. I do." Now, although President Biden is not the subject of this proceeding today, I do expect Trump's attorneys to make some reference to the fact that President Biden was not charged and President Trump is being charged. Now, Jack Smith is going to argue that the difference between the two cases is that President Biden cooperated with their investigation and President Trump didn't. So back to you.
Well, thank you so much for filling us in today. Arlene Richards, appreciate it.
The House passed a bill yesterday that could ban TikTok in the U.S. if its Chinese owner doesn't sell the company. It would also grant the president sweeping new authorities to target foreign companies in the U.S. The bipartisan bill is now headed for the Senate. It passed by a vote of 352 to 65. 50 Democrats and 15 Republicans voted against the measure. TikTok's parent company, ByteDance, would have around 6 months to sell the platform if the bill is enacted. The bill would create a way for the president to classify social media apps under the influence of certain foreign nations as hazardous to national security and ban them unless they transfer ownership to U.S. companies. President Biden has already pledged to sign the bill into law if it passes Congress. And here to discuss the passage of that bill in the House is Congressman Ralph Norman of South Carolina, a proponent of the legislation. Congressman Norman, we value your input here today. How significant is this bill, considering the security risks the app poses and the many years of effort to combat this threat?
Well, thank you, Kevin and Evelyn. This is long overdue. You know, ByteDance, which owns the company by Chinese, which China is not our friend. It should have been dealt with years ago. It's been in the United States since 2017, and the vote surprised me. I cannot believe we had the 65 that voted not to pass this bill. But China's polluting the minds of our children. They don't even show the content that we have in their country. And I found out that anybody who criticizes ByteDance or TikTok they get their stock revoked. They're taking stock now from, I guess, former employees since they're getting fired. But it was long overdue, and I'm glad it passed.
That's right, Congressman Norman. And Senators Warner and Rubio, they're the chair and the vice chair of the Senate Intel Committee. They both support the measure. However, it's unclear if the Senate will take up this legislation. But first, Representative Maxwell Frost, she's a Democrat of Florida. She is concerned about the security challenges, but says that the bill does not fix that problem. Can you explain why it does, if so?
I don't know where she's coming from. If all we're asking is sell the Chinese interest in the company, and it can stay. But unless it's still under the control of China, with which all the information it gathers on American citizens, it's not any. I don't know how you could be clearer on that. So, they hired every lobbyist in D.C., I'm told. Look on any of the channels, news channels, they're advertising why it's good. We had people holding signs saying, keep TikTok. So, but I don't understand where she's coming from.
Congressman Norman, TikTok has pushed back on this bill, saying it was created in secret and that this bill is a ban or will necessarily lead to one, whether lawmakers admit it or not, and hopes that lawmakers will realize the impact this would have on the economy and should listen to their constituents and the 170 million Americans who use the app. What's your response?
My response is it's typical from a communist country that's a dictatorship that abuses its citizens. Let them explain to the 20,000 Chinese nationalists that are in our country. Let them explain why they're not showing the contents of TikTok on their own people. And they can't do that. And it's a very simple fix on this. If TikTok wants to stay in business, do not have China as an owner or any other rogue country that doesn't like us. So that's as clear as I can be with it.
And as we mentioned, huge support for this in the House. For every one no vote, there were over 5 yes votes. Are you convinced by TikTok's move to put American users' data in the Oracle cloud instead of overseas, thus dispelling security concerns?
Yeah, I really am. And this comes on the heels of a Chinese balloon, a spy balloon that was able to gather information, as TikTok does, fly all over this country without being shot down. And finally shot down in salt water near Myrtle Beach, where you can't recover the contents of what they were getting. So they're going to complain, but again, China's not our friend. We've got to disassociate ourselves with it, as we do with so many other things that are made in China and are shipped over here.
A little bit more time here. What do you say to the Americans who say that TikTok has benefited them in various ways, for example, helping them grow their small businesses?
Well, I think it has done some good, but at what cost? At what expense? Look, we're talking about freedom. We're talking about not having our young children indoctrinated at an early age. And there are other apps that can provide the same source. And TikTok, if it divests itself of China, can remain in this country. But what if we try to do the same to China and take our American form of TikTok to China? They wouldn't allow it. So why should we allow this? And again, they're a threat to our national security. They're putting fentanyl in the bloodstream of our young people, causing a lot of deaths. And again, this is just the beginning of our disassociation with China.
Thank you for your time this morning, Congressman Ralph Norman of South Carolina.
My pleasure.
The House Republican Conference is gathering in West Virginia for their annual policy retreat.
Our Washington correspondent Luis Martinez was at the Greenbrier Resort where the event is taking place to bring us this report.
Good morning. Yes, we are here in West Virginia, in White Sulphur Springs at the Greenbrier Historic Resort. It's a historic resort because it was built in 1913, over 100 years ago. But it's also historic because in 1962, the government built a fallout shelter for Congress to relocate in case of a nuclear war. So the House GOP conference is meeting here for 3 days, starting yesterday, Thursday, throughout Friday. The congressmen will gather to strategize about their policy concerns. Speaker Johnson last night announced that they would be discussing Bidenomics. They would be discussing the failed foreign policy of President Biden, but also strategies for the impeachment inquiry against President Biden, and also, of course, speaking and discussing the strategy for the appropriation bills debate that is coming up for next week. Let's remember that a week from Friday, Congress has to approve the second set of 6 appropriation bills in order to fund government through fiscal year 2024. So it will be interesting to see what will happen in the next 2 days. We already know something that is particularly notable, which is that less than 100 congressmen have shown up for this GOP retreat, which is a big blow for Speaker Johnson and his leadership. Back to you.
Ready for nuclear war. An ominous message from Russian President Vladimir Putin yesterday to the West.
NTD's Daniel Monahan has more on the statement from Putin, who said any sending of American troops to Ukraine would be considered a significant escalation of the conflict.
The Russian leader was speaking ahead of a March 15th through 17th election, which is certain to give him another 6 years in power. Putin added that the nuclear war scenario was not rushing up, and he saw no need for the use of nuclear weapons in Ukraine. Putin says the U.S. understands that if it deployed American troops on Russian territory or to Ukraine, Russia would treat the move as an intervention. The Russian leader says the use of nuclear weapons is spelled out in the Kremlin's nuclear doctrine. The doctrine justifies use of such weapons if Russia is attacked by nuclear weapons or attacked by conventional weapons when the very existence of the state is put under threat. The Biden administration has said it has no plans to send troops to Ukraine, but has stressed the need to approve a stalled security aid bill that would ensure Ukrainian troops get more weapons to continue the war, now in its third year. The White House National Security Council said in a statement that Russia's nuclear rhetoric has been reckless and irresponsible throughout this conflict. Russia's neighbor Finland also weighed in on the situation with Russia. Prime Minister Petteri Orpo said Wednesday Russia was gearing up for a long conflict with the West. The Finnish leader asked for more spending and coordination on European defense. Putin said Wednesday that Finland and Sweden's entry into NATO was a meaningless step, and said Russia will deploy troops and systems of destruction to the Finnish border after Finland joins the alliance. Daniel Monahan, NTD News.
Coming up, President Biden campaigns across the Midwest after securing the Democratic nomination for the 2024 presidential race.
He visited the key swing state of Wisconsin, announcing billions of dollars in new infrastructure investments. And presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. sets a date to pick a 2024 running mate. His top two picks sparking sharp criticism from the DNC.
A wild traffic stop in Ohio when a pair of turkeys followed police officers who were pulling a car over. Gobble up the video when we come back.
Shen Yun Creations, the streaming platform from Shen Yun, featuring world-class dance, past programs, and all original music. Masterclasses, behind the scenes, comedy, and more. Explore shenyuncreations.com.
I can remember being back in medical school where it was almost a depressing conception of the brain. We're born with so many neurons that peak like around 20, and then it's just a downhill decline from there. But today, we are going to debunk this old way of thinking and use a new technology called the functional MRI PET scanner to show that the brain can be rewired to function much better. It caused an almost immediate change, and by better, I mean improved focus, longer attention span, better mood, decreased risk of developing dementia, and an overall better life. So get ready to be surprised and even amazed. This is really exciting information as we explore what is possible, as we talk to thought leaders in the field. I needed to make sure I'm really that guy, okay. See the cutting edge tools they are using to assess the brain and hear from real patients about their dramatic healing process. That's good.
What do you do when your tire goes flat and there's no air anywhere? You reach for Bullseye Pro, the smarter, faster, hands-free way to fill it up with air. Bullseye Pro is equipped with a rechargeable lithium-ion power plant. So fast and so convenient. It's like the power of an air compressor in the palm of your hand. Look, you can inflate all 4 tires on a single charge. It has a built-in smart pressure digital sensor that gauges and automatically stops when the set tire pressure is reached. Easily inflate pool toys, exercise balls, and more. Call or go online now and get the complete Bullseye Pro inflation system for the factory direct price of just $79.99. Plus, we'll ship your entire order free, and we'll give you a 50% discount on a second one. Order now.
To order, call 1-800-984-7221. That's 1-800-984-7221, or go to getbullseyepro.com.
There's always a searching process for beauty. You know it when you see it.
Thanks for staying with us. President Biden is campaigning for votes across the Midwest, promising to invest in local communities and taking aim at former President Trump.
Biden was in the swing state of Wisconsin yesterday after securing the Democratic nomination for president.
President Biden announced infrastructure investments in Milwaukee on Wednesday for major highways and roads.
I'm here to announce the first of its kind investment, $3.3 billion in 132 projects in 42 states.
He claimed his rival's campaign threatens the very idea of America. He also accused Trump of wanting to make cuts to Social Security and Medicare and spoke about what he would do differently.
Instead of cutting Social Security and Medicare to give tax breaks to the super wealthy, I'm going to protect and strengthen Social Security and Medicare to make the wealthy begin to pay their fair share.
Biden won Wisconsin by less than 1% of the vote in 2020. The state is part of the so-called Blue Wall, along with Michigan and Pennsylvania. These are states that were historic Democratic strongholds. Trump flipped all three states in 2016. Biden won them back in 2020, but they have remained battleground states ever since. But Biden's biggest issues continue to plague his campaign. About 100 protesters waving Palestinian flags rallied close to Biden's campaign headquarters in Milwaukee. The protesters marched through the streets earlier to protest Biden's response to Israel's war in Gaza. Biden plans to move on to Michigan on Thursday. It's part of a month-long I'm on board blitz aimed at rallying supporters in 7 swing states that could decide the 2024 election.
And earlier I spoke to Jeff Crouer, a political analyst and TV radio host. I asked him for his analysis on this year's Trump and Biden rematch.
Well, one of the benefits is that both campaigns can get their teams in place and put the entire structure together early. Like, look at what the Republicans are doing now with the Trump campaign. President Trump has his people now in place at the RNC. He's got his daughter-in-law there. There's a new chair. So now they're going to have their people working closely together with the campaign months early compared to usual. So I think it'll help both sides really get organized early because, as you say, it's a rematch. It's going to be familiar territory for both campaigns. And I mean, we really have been in campaign season for a long time. So this just ramps it up to a new level. And I found it very interesting about your reports. And you're going to see abortion really being an issue pushed by the Democrats, no doubt about it.
Right, and this time around, Trump has a bunch of legal issues as well. So Republicans say, of course, that it garnered him support. What do you think?
You know, there are challenges, too, because he's going to be distracted by all of these legal challenges. It costs money, it's going to cost time, and it is going to take him away from the campaign trail. But it really has backfired politically in that he hasn't lost support. His base is still with him. A poll I saw the other day shows that 97% of the people that were with Donald Trump in the last election are still with him. He hasn't had any kind of an erosion in his support, whereas Biden has. So that's why the polls right now show Donald Trump ahead in most of the battleground states and also nationally. So I think Democrats are surprised that President Trump is so strong considering everything he is facing. You know, he just had some good news yesterday with some of the charges in Georgia being dropped.
Got it. Well, thank you so much for your take on all this. Jeff Crouer, I appreciate it. Presidential candidate Robert F. Kennedy Jr. says he'll announce his running mate near the end of the month.
2 of his confirmed VP picks are NFL quarterback Aaron Rodgers and former Minnesota governor and retired pro wrestler Jesse Ventura. That's according to multiple media outlets, citing a spokesperson from the Kennedy campaign.
Kennedy made the announcement on X. He thanked supporters for the most successful independent campaign in decades.
Rogers endorsed Kennedy last year after the two found common ground with COVID vaccine concerns. Rogers is expected to play for the New York Jets this year, returning from injury.
A Democratic National Committee advisor reacted by calling Kennedy's shortlist a Three Stooges reunion, no one is asking for. The DNC advisor stated it's no surprise considering the conspiracy theorists doing the choosing.
Kennedy launched his independent bid in October last year after accusing the DNC of rigging the party's primary elections. The 2024 hopeful says support coming in shows Americans are tired of division and are looking for a leader who can heal the divide.
And for some lighter news, if you think playing with dogs or looking at their adorable videos on social media helps you decompress, you might be onto something.
A small study published yesterday found interacting with dogs might strengthen brain waves associated with rest and relaxation.
The study, published in the journal PLOS, involved 30 healthy people with an average age of 28 years old. Each person engaged in multiple activities with a dog, like playing, feeding, grooming, hugging, and walking.
Study authors measured their brain waves during each activity, then asked participants questions about their emotional state. The changes in brain waves indicated heightened attention, concentration, and relaxation.
The study did have some weaknesses, like the low number of study participants and the fact that the group was healthy, which meant the experts couldn't observe any improvement in medical conditions. It's a good bet the canine participants enjoyed taking part, though. And more in the animal kingdom, a routine traffic stop got a little wild in Bay Village, Ohio last weekend.
After officers were followed by a pair of wild turkeys while pulling a car over.
The local police department shared video of the encounter on social media. It shows the officers trying to get away.
The turkeys waddling after them. No word on whether the driver was ticketed, but it looks like the turkeys got off with a warning.
What did the driver do to make those friends? That was effective.
Oh, yeah. I wonder if it's a Tom or a Jenny, those turkeys running around.
Oh, yeah. We'll never know. All right. We have to wrap up our show right here, but we'll keep you updated with the latest information. Stay tuned for our News Today broadcast at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. Thanks for watching. I'm Evelyn Lee.
And I'm Kevin Hogan.